Okay, can I ask everybody to take a seat and we're going to get started. Thank you. If everybody could take a seat, you're up here. And the mayor is right. Where's the mayor? Ask Luke. But yes, you're over here. The mayor's right here. Why don't you sit right here? Okay, fine. No, perfect. And Elena, you want to sit up here? Okay. Welcome. Wow, that was great. I didn't have to say anything. Everybody quieted right down. That was pretty amazing. Can you do that again? No. I'm David Dworkin, and I'm president and CEO of the National Housing Conference. And we are the oldest and broadest housing coalition in the United States. And we are really honored and pleased to be here. We started a Black Homeownership working group about almost 4 years ago at the National Housing Conference. And as we were working on trying to understand and learn more about this really critical issue, we saw that many of our members were also increasingly engaged. And the president of Ginnie Mae, Elena Mccargo, and I were talking about, we're just going to be so much stronger if we're leveraging each other. And the Urban Institute, where she was at that time, had a really great research initiative. And our membership had this broad range of involvement in all the elements of the mortgage industry. And we reached out to other partners like the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the National Association of Realtors, the National Fair Housing Alliance, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and and I think I got everybody, but I always leave one out, but hopefully it'll just be us, and the National Housing Conference, and we, in the National Urban League and the NAACP, thank you for that smile, Cy, and we decided that we would form a collaborative, that we would move this out of NHC, and we would work to leverage each other and to support each other's work towards this common goal, because home ownership for Black Americans today, and we've all heard this now, is as low as it was in 1968 when mortgage discrimination was still legal. And that is a shameful fact. But calling it shameful, knowing that it is bad and wrong and unfair, is not good enough, because that isn't going to move the dial. And so our focus from the beginning was on coming up with strategies that would be tangible and actionable, and that our focus would be on moving that number. So we sat down and we tried to figure out, so what is that number? What is a real goal that's achievable, but is not going to be possible unless we make the changes we need to make? And so we identified 3 million net new Black homeowners by the end of 2030. And I can tell you right now, there is no way we are going to make that number unless we do some major changes. And this 7-point plan are those changes. And if we can deal with all of these things, if we can push hard in all of these different areas, we're not going to be successful 100% in every single one of them. But if we have a concerted effort, we are going to move this number. And if we get 3 million net new home buyers, we're going to end up with a home ownership rate in the Black community of well over 50%. And that is not enough, but it is a heck of a running start on closing this gap. And if we do nothing, we are going to literally, it's been modeled, have no change whatsoever. 10 years from now, we will be at 42% or less. And that is completely unacceptable. So the people in this room, you are the people who've been working on this. You are the people who are dedicated to this. Many of you have spent your entire lives working towards this. And our job as a collaborative is to help you do what you do and have a lot more company. And so some of that company is here today, and I am going to start by just recognizing Dr. Lewis, who is our host, and the university is been gracious enough, the college has been gracious enough to have us here today when they're closed. And they opened their door, they literally opened their doors to us, and I am deeply appreciative, and thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. Yes, the campus is closed, so it's all yours today. So everybody here, please do enjoy yourself today here at Atlanta Metropolitan State College. First, I just want to say happy belated Father's Day, happy Juneteenth, and congratulations, yes. And congratulations to the Black Homeownership Collaborative on your one-year anniversary. Again, my name is George Lewis, proud to be president here at Atlanta Metropolitan State College. Been serving in this role since about 2019. I haven't seen so many of you around town and in the area because none of us have seen each other in the last 2 or 3 years. So it's really good to see people moving around again. If it's your first time on campus, I would like to say that I believe that we are right in the middle of the corridor of opportunity here on Metropolitan on the west side. So as you come up Metropolitan from the south to the north, you'll pass Goodwill Industries, you'll come down the hill some, and then you'll see us here at Atlanta Metropolitan State College. Our neighbors, Atlanta Tech. We are two different places. Lots of people confuse that, but we are two different places. Atlanta Tech, they're our neighbors and our partners, and at the end of Metropolitan is the beginning of the AU Center. So we like to call this the corridor of opportunity. In between, you have restaurants, retail, a library, access to the Beltline, those of you who are entrepreneurs, which are many of you, and also Pittsburgh Yard. So Metropolitan is definitely moving. Before I have the honor of introducing the mayor, I just want to mention that Atlanta Metropolitan State College's vision is to transform the lives of our students, their families, and our community for generations. At AMSC, more than 90% of our students here are African American. The average age at Atlanta Metro is 26 years old. Most of our students actually work full-time, go to school part-time to take care of their families, and our students have an average adjusted gross income of $17,000 a year. Yes, $17,000 a year. So that's the lowest in the university system of Georgia. So when our students cross the stage with one of our 5 bachelor's degrees, 3 of our associate degrees, or any of our certificates, it's definitely a transformation, not just for them, but for their families and our communities. At Atlanta Metro, we encourage everybody to bring their brilliance. As you came in, I think I saw one of the banners outside. And that phrase, it's not just a catchy phrase, but it means 3 distinct things to us. Bring Your Brilliance is an invitation. As a access college, we focus on our students' potential more than just their standardized test scores. But Bring Your Brilliance is also a challenge that we have high expectations. So access and excellence need to be married. And so we encourage faculty, staff, and students to bring their best every day. And last, Bring Your Brilliance, it's a declaration. And many of the students from our communities aren't told that they're brilliant. And so we believe that there's brilliance in each and every one of them, and we expect that of them as Atlanta Metropolitan State College students. So to each of you, on behalf of all the faculty, staff, and the administration here at Atlanta Metro, I just want to welcome you to Atlanta Metropolitan State College. But now it's my honor it's an honor for me to introduce Atlanta's 61st mayor, the Honorable Andre Dickens. As you know, Mayor Dickens, as you all know, Mayor Dickens is a proud product of the Atlanta Public Schools. He's focused on bringing opportunity and equity to the city that he loves. I'm not from Atlanta, but like so many of us who have moved here, I'm proud and I love the metro area, and so some people say you're full, but I'm glad that you allowed me to come into this city. Part of Mayor Dickens' vision is for Atlanta to be one city with one bright future, a city that is safe, a city that is healthy, with connected neighborhoods, and there are opportunities for upward mobility for all of Atlanta's residents. I'm confident that that also means affordable housing and definitely home ownership. At Atlanta Metropolitan State College, we are pleased to be partners with the City of Atlanta in many ways, but specifically on this campus with the Atlanta Police Department having their training here. And so I want to thank Mayor Dickens for his support of that partnership. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 61st Mayor of Atlanta, the Honorable Andre Dickens.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Good morning. Good morning to you. Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Lewis, and thank you for your partnership. As stated, it can't be understated how tremendously beneficial it is that Atlanta Metropolitan State College allows our police academy to take place here. We train here. We have 3 academy classes going on right now in other buildings on this campus. So that's a tremendous partnership and relationship. We graduate our officers here to get that in-depth training here in an academic environment that's nurturing to them. And it's much better than where they were just recently in a very old, rundown, mildewy elementary school that they have been training in for years. So I thank you for bridging the gap for us. And I thank you, David, for your leadership and having us all gather together today. And it's good to see my Congresswoman Nakima Williams here. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you for being here, Congresswoman. And Councilmember Byron Amos is here from the Atlanta City Council. Thank you for being here. Stand up, Byron Amos. And we have our state representative, Rhonda Bernal. There she is in the back. Stand up. And I don't know if I missed anyone else that's a city or state elected official. I know we have HUD representatives here, my friend Alan from HUD, and so many other folks. All y'all are who's who, diplomats, important people. If you're important and you know it, just wave your hands and just say, hey. All of you are important, everybody. And happy Juneteenth. That can't go understated, too. This may be the second year that the federal government observes Juneteenth. Here around Atlanta, we've been doing a Juneteenth parade for the last 10 plus years, and I've been a part of each one of them. Yesterday I was out was it yesterday? Oh, Saturday. What's the day? Monday? Things just move, I think it was 2 days ago. But time flies when you're having fun or when your schedule's just packed. Either one, you kind of don't know what day it is. But for those of you that aren't always in Atlanta, I'll say welcome to Atlanta, to this conference. It's very important, this mission that you guys are on. It's a shared mission. Your mission is the same as mine for Black home ownership. So I am thrilled to join you in this 1-year anniversary of the Black Home Ownership Collaborative. What a great mission, what a great reason for us to get together and to meet and to produce an outcome that people are waiting on for us, especially us, to do. When this group launched a year ago, it was in Cleveland, Ohio. Now we got a great mayor, friend of mine, Mayor Bibb there, and it was clear with a clear and intentional mission to help reduce barriers to Black home ownership. Now, the previous mayor of Cleveland is now the HUD secretary, Secretary Fudge. So we're talking about this thing was planted on good ground. This seed has been planted on good ground. And so starting in Cleveland with Secretary Fudge's town and then coming here to Atlanta where Atlanta influences everything. This is where you got to come to get some stuff done. So as we go forward, I want to encourage you all in something that I tell my team, the value of doing while planning. Doing while planning. We do a lot of consortiums. We do a lot of collaborations. And I'm not, I'm just talking about what I'm talking about right now. But I want us to do while we plan. There's a lot of people waiting on us to allow them to have that American dream, that home ownership. So while we plan, while we forecast, while we think through, let's just get to work. Let's do some stuff for some people that are desperately waiting on us to help them get into home ownership and stay in home ownership. Earlier this year, CNN reported that more American homes there are more American homes now than at any time since the Great Recession. Yet, home ownership for blacks, as stated earlier by David, is lower than it was just 10 years ago. In fact, data from January of this year shows that the home ownership gap between black and white Americans is the widest it's been in almost 100 years. In the past, owning a home was the primary way that African Americans built wealth. Your home was your nest egg, along with your pension from General Motors or some of those places. This was it, and so we treasured our homes. And for my parents and their parents' generation, owning a home could change a family's life, and that's what happened partially in my life. It is my dream that Atlanta becomes the city where more of our children are born here and then educated here, land a great job here, grow a family here, and never have to leave here. And all of that is because hopefully they will have a home here that they buy and live in. And we're working hard to keep this city from becoming out of reach for those residents who dream of owning their own home here in Atlanta. And we love to be the city that could help the Black Ownership Collaborative provide a national blueprint for making more African American homeowners, and that starts right now. And so I'm grateful to be a part of you all. The city has resources. The city has thought leadership. The city has policies. We have down payment assistance. We are, everyone knows my goal is to build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing over the next 8 years, and make no mistakes about it, I'm not just talking about rental property either. I'm talking about people owning homes, living in homes, and not just being apartments. Apartments are necessary, too. Don't get me wrong, out of these 20,000 units, it's going to be a lot of apartments, but some of these are going to be townhomes, condos, and single-family dwelling units that people can live in. We can use a CLT model. We can use our land bank authority. We can do a lot of those things. And so I'm grateful that we are gathered here today, and I'm also grateful to see our great Congressman Hank Johnson as he is approaching. We got it all going on today on Juneteenth. I thought we wasn't working today. I told the city go home, take the day off. You know, this is Juneteenth. We celebrate here. We hold it up just as we hold up 4th of July. Independence matters. And so I said, let's take the day off. And here I am working, my team working, Hank's working, Nakeema's working, y'all working, I guess. But we working on behalf of us for our mission and our future. So I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank y'all.
So it's now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, and then we're going to have remarks from our dignitaries. And I just want to say that I don't need any remarks to introduce Elena Mccargo. This is someone who has added so much to this entire initiative and has dedicated her career and her life to making a difference for all Americans, but particularly for people of color and Black Americans, through research, through data, through action, and we now are lucky to have her at HUD as the president of Ginnie Mae. And I'll just say that Ginnie Mae is the government corporation that securitizes and makes available to investors, provides liquidity to FHA mortgages, which is one of the very most important ways that people become first-time home buyers. And what makes it possible for FHA to work is Ginnie Mae, and what makes it possible for Ginnie Mae to work is Elena Mccargo. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's just amazing to be here, David. I really appreciate that, and I really thank the mayor for his words and you for that kind introduction. This is truly, it doesn't feel like work. We're off today, all of us. It is a federal holiday. I'm very proud that the Biden administration made that happen for us last year. You know, many of us have been celebrating Juneteenth for a long time, for as long as we know. You know, my family in Texas, this was a thing. We were having a barbecue every year, well before the government made this a holiday. But it is truly amazing to see all of you here, and this is a great way to spend a day like this. This effort, the Black Homeownership Collaborative, is, I mean, I feel like we planted seeds together. So many of you in this room were part of that. And so I'm really grateful to be able to stand here on the first anniversary. And I stood last year in Cleveland, Ohio with Secretary Fudge as we launched this initiative in what was a much smaller room. We didn't have a big crowd. We still were dealing with the effects of COVID-19. People were not gathering. And we were in the midst, and we all knew this, of watching the gap between Black and white homeownership continue to grow. It was getting bigger through this pandemic. The market was great. A lot of people were buying houses. But you know, we have to look back now and reflect on who got a chance, who had access, who had that opportunity, and what does that mean now for us as we move forward and try to recover. And then we also have now a housing market that is incredibly unaffordable, especially for renters, but also for homeownership, and a situation ahead of us that is very uncertain. So we're in some really interesting times. And to David's good points, you know, we have to do this as a community. It cannot be, the federal government does not have a silver bullet. As much as Secretary Fudge and myself and others want to, you know, we want to get this work done. We are taking all the action that we can from a policy perspective. It takes the local community. It takes the state. It takes the nonprofits. It takes the realtors and the builders. And the developers. We've got to work in collaboration if this is really gonna work. And so we knew that then, and we know that now, that this is gonna take the village, the whole village, to make a dent in any meaningful way to the Black homeownership crisis that we see today. So it is an honor to be here. I am just, again, thrilled that we're doing this on Juneteenth in Homeownership Month. There could not be a better time. Well done, David, and the National Housing Conference and the whole team. I want to talk a little bit about, you know, I'm going to talk for a minute just about, because I know we're short on time, a little bit about the things that we have been focused on since the administration came into. So the first week that President Biden and Vice President Harris took office, we had several executive orders come out of the White House that were directly impacted to the work we're talking about today. One had to do with equity and how we are going to drive more equity through the federal government and through every agency, and do everything we do through a lens that recognizes the differences and these disparities that we're talking about by race. So that was huge. And the other piece was the Fair Housing Act. And one of the very first things we did was look at the work that had been done on the Fair Housing Act, the destruction that was done to it during the last administration, frankly, and the restoration that was going to be needed to get us where we need to be to root out discrimination in the housing market, period. And that has been, when I tell you, when you hear from Secretary Fudge, when you meet with her, when you see her, that is what she's thinking about. And she's thinking about it from every angle. She's worried about the seniors, she's worried about the homeless, and everything in between, from renting to homeownership, avoiding evictions, unfair practices that are happening all over the gamut. So we are laser focused on this and looking at it all from a lens of equity, because we must do that if we are going to solve these problems. We have to be intentional in our policymaking and in our thinking. So some of the work that we have underway on fair housing is a renewal of the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act, and you'll be seeing a lot more come out of that. That was essentially taken offline during the Trump administration and has been now fully restored in the Federal Register, and the rollout of that and the work with communities across the country is underway on AFFH, and that is a huge, huge accomplishment. And the enforcement of fair housing and the building of that fair housing team that runs all of this and makes sure that communities are following the law has been really been a work that has been in focus and restored over the last year. And so we're very, very proud of that. The other thing that happened last year, just before we met to have the first year or the first celebration and launch of this Black Homeownership Collaborative, is that Secretary Fudge and President Biden went to Tulsa on June 1st last year. And in Tulsa, the president announced a series of things that we were going to do directly to address the inequities to Black people that have happened and the atrocities that occurred in our history. We understand, and I feel very fortunate to work for and have a president that recognizes there were things taken, peoples broken, wealth stolen, and that we have work to do to restore that, and that has had a legacy and an impact on Black people since those things happened. And in Tulsa, we talked about that. One of the things that we launched there under Secretary Fudge's leadership was the Property Appraisal and Valuation Task Force, an interagency task force, 17 agencies involved in that across the federal government, led by Secretary Fudge and co-led by Domestic Policy Advisor Susan Rice. We took the home appraisal issue and looked at it from every corner, working with the industry, working with the Appraisal Foundation, working with the realtors, making sure that we are looking at and rooting out what is discriminatory practices that have been happening in this. And one thing I was thinking about it actually just this morning, I said, if we can't, there's a lot of pieces of the housing system that need to be fixed and that need to be looked at and that need policy restoration. But what we did with what is called PAVE report is we laid out a legislative path and an administrative path, because there's a lot of things that can be done without legislation, without Congress, and we need to do both. And so we've laid out the agenda for what that needs to look like and where, but we have started a conversation about appraisals that has not happened. And about the appraisal bias, many of you have seen the news clips and what's happening to people who are trying to refinance their house, not getting a good appraiser. This also goes to who is doing the appraisals, right? So we are talking about what education, what does it require? What are the certifications? What are the requirements to get into this? The practices around, really around getting certified to be an appraiser, those need to be addressed. So we worked with the Department of Education and others to really talk about that, and labor took a big role in that as well. So we have to look at this from a number. It's not just housing policy. There's a lot more to it, but we've got to diversify who is doing appraisers. We've got to make this a workforce, and it's a jobs opportunity for many people that could be getting into this business. But we got to fix some things that are broken in that system, and the report really shines a light on all of that. One thing I will say is not fixing and having fair appraisals and fair valuations of Black-owned property is a direct assault on Black wealth. And we know that the wealth gap is staggering. I was looking at this, 8 times is the wealth gap. So we're talking about the home ownership gap today and that is a direct correlation to the wealth gap. That is directly correlated to how people value your property. And that's why this appraisal issue is so fundamentally important for those that already own homes and for those that want to. So all of that to say that the work that has been done on PAVE has been astounding. And I really do encourage everybody to look at that report. It is comprehensive. And if you work in this business, you should understand the dynamics and what's going on there and what we need to be working towards and advocating for to fix this problem. The last thing I want to mention is, because it's huge right now on the president's agenda, is housing supply. We have, a major challenge right now with anything being affordable, and even the things that were once very affordable. That we have a shortage of housing, both rental and opportunities for home ownership. So the president recently announced a housing supply action plan. It was announced on May 16th. It is the most comprehensive all-of-government effort to close the housing supply shortfall in our nation's history. We've got to fix this problem. So not only do we have problem accessing credit to buy a home, there are no homes to buy in affordable levels. So we've got to work on all corners of this issue if we're really going to see a difference and get to 3 million by 2030 new Black homeowners, because this is critical. The primary areas of the housing supply plan, I want to mention them, especially standing here in Atlanta, Georgia, because we have to do this not only as a federal priority, but it's going to require state and local and other intervention at the local level. So incentivizing land use and zoning reform is part of the federal government's commitment. Reducing the regulatory barriers to increasing housing supplies. There are many. Some of them are federal, but many of them are state and local. And piloting new financing opportunities for homes that are affordable and preventing institutional investors from purchasing these homes. I have to mention this. Atlanta, Georgia, this is we always hear this, that institutional investors are a very small part of who owns the investment properties out there. And that is true nationally. But when you look at Atlanta, Georgia, when you look at Tampa, Florida, when you look at Cleveland, Ohio, and a whole host of other communities, they are the majority of those coming in, buying these homes, renting them often, or sitting on them and waiting for them to increase in value as the market changes. That is an atrocity, because that means that many people who could be buying these affordable homes don't have that opportunity, do not have access to them, cannot get them. Some of them are, staying there vacant, deteriorating the value of the properties around them. We have to fix this problem. And that is going to take a lot of coordination and state and local intervention as well, in order to really be strategic and thoughtful about how do we make these homes available to people who want to buy them and live in them and own them, so that they can benefit from the equity and all the growth and all the home price appreciation that we've been seeing. So that is, I just had to mention that, especially here, because it is just such a big issue here. The other thing I just want to, and I'll close because I know you only give me a few minutes, but you gave me this podium, and that was, and I have a lot to say about this. But the last thing I'll say is, I was here in Atlanta. We kicked off 4 years ago with the Urban Institute and NAACP and NHC and NAR and all the different organizations, national organizations. We said, where do we go to kick off this and talk about this great work we've done, this research we've done, because we were doing everything. It was my mission in life to shine a light on the disparities we are seeing and this Black homeownership gap. I wrote about it. I traveled all over the country. I talked to every reporter, anybody that would listen to me. You know this to be true. I was just talking about, we've got to get ahead of this problem. We needed to be fixing it then, and here we are 4 years later. And the market's very different. There's some missed opportunity over the years, especially since the last crisis. But I will tell you, when I think about the last crisis and the work I was doing in 2007, 2008, I was primarily working with Black and brown people who were being foreclosed on, who had gotten into really bad financing schemes and, lots of bad products. And I was working with families, and I was seeing the destruction of wealth. And, I was in the trenches on that then. And then years later, I was thinking about, where is everyone? Millions of people lost their homes. What are they doing now? Many of them are renting now. Some of them are renting a single family home. The place where that was the worst, to go from majority Black home ownership, over 50% home ownership rate right here in Atlanta, to see the 8 percentage points drop, and now to see Atlanta Blacks are now majority renters. That is what that cycle during that crisis did to this community and to many communities across the country. Now look at what those homes are worth. Who's buying those homes? Who is benefiting from all that equity when they purchase those homes? That, to me, is just, it's shameful. It's really difficult to grapple with, but it's why I get up and come to work even on Juneteenth. just to get some things fixed in our system so we never see anything like that happen again. And I will say, fast forward, we took a real big hit during this pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people are going to lose their homes. But it's nothing like, there was a lot of interventions that were put in place, a lot of money that was put into the system to really address that. Congress did an amazing job with the forbearances and things to keep people in their homes, because losing your home during a pandemic and being on the streets is just counterproductive, and everybody realized that, and the government put forth a number of different programs through the American Rescue Plan that are right now being flooded into communities all over the country. And so if you're not familiar with that, make sure you do know where that money is and have a part in making sure it goes to the places it needs to go. HUD has put out tons of money, and it's just, it's waiting to be used. And we're also directing a lot of that towards the housing supply issues that I was talking about earlier. So all that to say, it is just a pleasure to be here. Thank you, David, for the invitation. Thank you all for listening. This work means everything to me, no matter what seat I sit in. I am the president of the Government National Mortgage Association, which many people have never even heard of. But Ginnie Mae is what we do there. And to me, the money, the capital flow, the financing, if that's not happening, nothing's happening. We're standing still. So I'm gonna make sure the money's flowing. So we need to get more FHA and VA lending. The FHA and VA are the most likely way that a Black new first-time home buyer is going to get access to home ownership. So I need those programs to work well, and I'm going to do everything to make sure the capital's there and flowing. So when the lenders and everybody else, so we need participation in the government lending programs. They work. They are, yes, they have their issues, but so do the Fannies and Freddie programs. So we've just got to continue to work to make those better. They need to work. We need all banks, non-banks, CDFIs, and everybody in the community offering them. Rural housing comes through that. Ginnie Mae supports rural housing development. All of that matters greatly, and we've got to make sure those programs are strong. And so I just ask you to please, as you advocate and do whatever you do in your corner of the world, keep that in mind. Keep in mind how important. We've got to have the money. You cannot buy a house without a loan now. And there's very few places in this country that you can buy a house without getting a loan, unless you're very fortunate and have lots of cash. And that's just not the case for most Americans. So with that, I'll stop, and thank you very much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have no idea what he just said. Thank you so much, President Mccargo. But he's going to tell me. He said you're running behind schedule. Yeah, we're going to do the Congress people next.
He said we're going to bring on Big Boy next, y'all.
You're going to introduce him? All right. I want to thank Elena for being here. We now have a very special guest. And I really appreciate Big Boy for coming. Some of you have seen the commercials. All of you have heard his music. I just want to say, some of us have been very fortunate to be blessed with opportunities we never dreamed of. And every now and then, one of those people takes that and says, how can I give back to my community, and dedicates their life and their art to that. And that is why he is here, and I'm deeply grateful for you coming in the middle of a tour to be here in Atlanta, your hometown. Everybody welcome Big Boy.
Get my notes together. Good afternoon. How y'all doing? All right. Story time. So I'm going to tell y'all how I became a homeowner. I know, of course, y'all probably know my background. Me and my brother started a group maybe 28 years ago called Outcast, and had a lot of success. The first big check we got was for a song called Players Ball. So we did a publishing deal. Two young guys, 17, 18, they gave us $100,000 a piece. It was like $10 million to us. So being teenagers, first thing we did, went to the car lot. Lexus GS 300 was the car, dream car. And I'm like, okay, not being financially literate, on the $80,000 car, I put $50,000 down because I wanted a low car note. and moved into an apartment. Right. This facts. So on top of that, we also invested in ourselves by buying music equipment to start producing our own records. So in a 2-bedroom apartment, we recorded hit songs like Elevators, ATLians, and the rest is history. So after that, 2 years later, we started making millions. So I bought my first house, Camerton Road, because I wanted to stay with my people. And my aunt worked at Foot Locker in Greenbrier. And I still had the Lexus GS 300 in the hood, like I'm staying with my people. Picked up from work one day, some guys tried to carjack us. Within 48 hours, Dre's mom found me a new house, Fayetteville. Sorry, I had to go way out for my family. So I sold that house, bought a new house with 7 acres on it. And I still own the house to this day. I'm actually about to Airbnb it. But no, I am. It's a house from MTV Cribs. So I got several properties. I got a kennel, a ranch with like 39 acres. And one thing that I learned, even investing in like Apple and Tesla and things like early on, that they ain't gonna make no more land. So I just started buying up property. And even to this day, I mean, the best thing to go into, because I know everybody 401k getting killed, and my stockbrokers are telling me go into real estate. Guys, I'm already in it. So now my plan is to buy more dirt. Okay, the top 3 reasons to do it. You do it for your family. You know what I'm saying? Your home becomes your piggy bank. You make equity, you create equity, and you put your kids through college. You can rent a room out. I don't think I could rent a room out. I had to rent the whole house out. You know what I mean? So, and you can get wealth that way too, you know what I'm saying, by getting extra capital. You transfer the wealth to your kids. That's what it's all about. Ooh, Lord, why this person doing the song? Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. You have a greater stake and voice in the community if you own the land where you stay at. You know what I'm saying? You got more say-so. And that's true. Watch out for the HOA. So home ownership gonna give you more say-so, though. You got leverage. It's within your reach, too. You just got to find you the right people, lenders, agents, a lot of y'all in the room right now, to teach people, as like me coming up, what to do and how to do it. Because now my portfolio is very diverse, and you can do it too, man. I mean, you don't have to start out with a big MTV Cribs house. You get you something, you start off with that, and you just build your equity, and you'll be barbecuing in your big boy backyard in no time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was worth the wait. It's now my pleasure to introduce one of Atlanta's members of Congress, Representative Nikema Williams. She represents the 5th Congressional District of Georgia. And Representative Williams has been an advocate for social justice, women, people of color. She sits on the Financial Services Committee, which is a critical role for housing. She is vice chair of the Subcommittee on Investigations of Oversight, which is very important towards fair housing, and the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. So I want to welcome Representative Williams. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you very much for being here.
Hello, everybody. I don't know about y'all, but next Juneteenth, we're going to be barbecuing our big boy backyard. Y'all ready? But first, we got to talk home ownership. Y'all, I'm Congresswoman Nikema Williams, and I proudly represent Georgia's 5th Congressional District. On this day that we observe the federal holiday, there is no better conversation to be having than this one about advancing true equity, and y'all, home ownership brings true freedom. So that's why on my day off, my office is closed as well. The city of Atlanta is closed. The federal government is closed. And I was like, y'all, can we just send a video? And they were like, well, we'll take a video, but we really want you to come. So here I am, y'all, because this is an important issue. So I want to thank the National Housing Conference for inviting me to join you, and I have to acknowledge Dr. George Lewis for hosting us today and everything that you continue to do, Dr. Lewis, for not only your students here, but for the greater Metro Atlanta community. And you'll be glad to know that Atlanta Metropolitan State College pennant just went up in my DC office. We received the package. It's on the wall. So just thank you for being true partners in our community. When we think about am I changing the slide behind me? Okay, because this computer screen is going crazy, y'all. When we think about Black home ownership, unfortunately, we don't need to look any further than where we are right now today to see the problem. Atlanta leads the nation, y'all, in the racial wealth gap. The country, we're the lowest. And y'all, when I grew up in Alabama, going to school at Talladega College, my HBCU, we came to Atlanta every weekend because this is where Black people came to grow and thrive. So then to get here and be a member of Congress and hear that my city, my home, my district leads the nation in the racial wealth gap, I know that we have work to do. We know that the ability to own a home and sustain it plays a huge role in that. And owning a home is a huge wealth generator that can be passed down from generation to generation. Y'all, I brought my 6-year-old son with me today, my Carter Cakes. I don't know where he is. He's probably somewhere looking for Big Boy because he thought he was going to meet Biggie today. I had to break it to him that it's not Biggie. He was like, wait, Biggie's dead? That's a whole nother story. He's 6, y'all. Give him some time. But Carter is with me here today because we talk about things like home ownership and how to invest his money and what he's saving for. And y'all, I'm laser focused on closing that racial wealth gap so that he doesn't fall into the traps that so many of our other youth are in right now. And this is how we ensure the promise of America is attainable for everyone in this country. I'm a member of the House Financial Services Committee where we're working on policies for greater financial inclusion, addressing the unbanked, underbanked, and credit invisible communities. And I know these struggles because y'all, I've lived them. There was a time when I didn't have a bank account and I lived paycheck to paycheck as a public school teacher in Atlanta. Each month paying rent and bills was both challenging and a major accomplishment. And I did everything I could with what I had, but much of what my hard work was going to remained invisible. And of course, if your financial history is invisible, it's pretty much impossible to obtain a mortgage. Well, I was fortunate. I got one of those FHA loans. My husband and I were able to become first-time homeowners, and we're gonna pass that down to our Carter Cakes, even if he isn't quite up on his rap game and musicians yet. We're working on that. But I want to tell you about a measure that I introduced and passed just last week in Congress. My amendment to the Financial Services Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Economic Justice Act tasks mortgage lenders with considering additional data not found on traditional credit reports in the underwriting of a mortgage at the request of a consumer. So that means if you've been paying your rent on time, why can't we count that towards building up your credit history? You know we're gonna pay that cell phone bill every month. So at the access and request of the consumer, we can count that towards the mortgage underwriting process. So those are things that we're looking at. How can we tweak the system so that it works for all of us? And that's what we're doing in Congress under the leadership of my chairwoman, Maxine Waters. I know that this is just one piece of the puzzle, y'all, but that's why I'm excited about the work of the Black Homeownership Collaborative. And I tell people all the time that I can do a lot as a member of Congress, but I can't do it alone. I need co-conspirators for justice, and I'm counting on each of you in this room to join me in this work because I'm including you all in that group now. I look forward to continuing to work together because y'all, everyone deserves a fair shot at home ownership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. It's now my pleasure. And I just want to say, it's a big deal when a member of Congress comes out here, especially on a holiday, but any day. This is one of the hardest jobs in Washington. I don't think people appreciate that. They have to go back to their district. They work whenever we're off. They're back in Congress. They work hours you can't even imagine. And they could all be making a lot more money in the private sector. They do this because they love our country. And I just want to say thank you both. And having said that, I'm now going to introduce Congressman Hank Johnson, who represents the 4th Congressional District of Georgia. And Congressman Johnson has had a distinguished career, a member of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and acting as chairman of the Subcommittee on Courts, Intellectual Property, and the Internet. He is a champion for equity for minority communities. And I just want to say one thing about transportation is, you know, the federal government pays a lot of money for our roads. And then communities zone so that people cannot afford to live where they work. And they spend more time on those roads and they wear them down. And, you know, I always say exclusionary zoning is the last bastion of bipartisanship. Every community does it. I don't care whether they're red or blue. And we're just starting to see in the president's plan and conversations in Congress about, you know what, if you're going to keep people from living in your community and make them commute for an hour, maybe our taxpayers don't have to pay to fix the roads that you made worse. And so I think that's a start. And I really appreciate you for being here, Congressman. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I looked at my calendar the other day and I saw that I've got something on my calendar for Juneteenth, I turned to my staff and I demanded an explanation to know what was going on. And what they told me was, calm down, Congressman. You know, home ownership on Juneteenth is something that needs to be discussed. We don't need to take a day off about it this year, maybe next year. We need to deal with this issue now. And so that resonated with me, and I said, okay. I put a smile on my face, and today I put my tie on. I started to come down in my African garb today for a, you know, just from a symbolism standpoint, but some told me, no, go ahead and put your, go on and look traditional. Well, we'll do it next time. And by the way, I'm so happy to have a new partner serving in Congress from the 5th District, filling the shoes of the late Congressman John Lewis, Representative Nikema Williams, who also, I'm pleased to report, serves with me on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And so we're dealing with issues such as transit, which can help people get from those far-flung communities caused by urban sprawl and exclusionary zoning, help them get to the job centers where they can earn a living and then one day hope to become a homeowner. And that's what we're here about today. I want to thank you all for inviting me to this year's National Housing Conference in celebration of the 1-year anniversary of your Black Homeownership Collaborative under the leadership of President and CEO, Mr. David Dworkin. Let's give him a hand. And it was so nice to hear from Ms. Mccargo this morning, and to hear her talk about my former colleague, Marcia Fudge, who now heads up Housing and Urban Development, with the intense leadership and drive that she brought to Congress representing Ohio. And so thank you for your comments, Ms. Mccargo. And home ownership is an idea that we need to address as our country is in the throes of an intense debate on the issues concerning systemic discrimination, systemic racism, and its impact on the lives of Americans, not just black people, but white people. And but certain demographics suffer from an inability to achieve the American dream. Black people is that demographic that I'm talking about today. Home ownership is a fundamental tenet of achieving the American dream, and too many of us are being shut out from that ability. I remember reading a powerful story in the Washington Post not too long ago The first line read, quote, "In 1936, a widowed black woman bought a home and it changed her family's financial worth for generations," end quote. Just that line alone should make us realize that home ownership is more fundamental to achieving the American dream than just having a roof over one's head. The article drove home the point that home ownership is an essential step towards wealth building. It is exciting to think that the NAHC's Black Homeownership Collaborative program will create opportunities for 3 million black people to become homeowners, who will have a stake in the vibrancy and diversity of what is the American community, and particularly here in Atlanta, the Atlanta community, a community that envelops the city of Atlanta, which is a city too busy to hate. There is a moral imperative that compels action to address home ownership and the gap in home ownership between blacks and whites in America. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, at the end of 2020, 44.1% of black Americans owned their homes, compared with 74.5% of white Americans. This disparity is a glaring factor which contributes to the wealth gap that exists between blacks and whites in our country. And over the years, Bloomberg, CBS News, and the AJC have reported that Atlanta ranks as the nation's city with the biggest inequality problem. In order to live up to our reputation as a mecca for black people, we must secure a bigger slice of the wealth pie, which is typically premised on home ownership, which is usually the largest investment that black folks make as they begin to generate wealth. I close with this, ladies and gentlemen. Real estate and home ownership benefits the purchaser's family, as well as the larger community. Strong communities attract businesses. Businesses create jobs, and strong businesses that create jobs stabilize our economy. So let's start this process at home. Black Americans buying homes in Atlanta. Great work, NHC. And I look forward to working with you all to achieve the American dream, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors and our entire community. Thank you. And happy Juneteenth, everybody.
So I did give my staff a comp day for working, and I would have appreciated the day off myself, but this is important work, and it's really not work. This is about passion, and this is about making a difference, and I know that's why all of you are here. No one had to be here except me and the people who work for me. And so, I mean, I do appreciate everybody coming. We have a couple of other speakers that are going to be very brief, and we also have lunch. It got here late, and so we weren't able to serve it beforehand, but I do want to just say that when we take our break, please feel free to help yourself and bring any food if you're hungry back to the table. We have a great program, and we also have an amazing closing speaker. You do not want to miss hearing Marc Morial from the National Urban League. I've known him since he was the mayor of Atlanta, and he has never stopped inspiring me from that day to this. So at this point now, I want to introduce New Orleans. What did I say? Atlanta. It's been a long month. This is Homeownership Month of New Orleans. And I want to introduce one of the co-chairs of the Black Homeownership Collaborative. She is with an organization who has really been all about black home ownership for generations, and the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. She also is, I think it's fair to call you a serial entrepreneur. You are involved in really every facet of home ownership through your company, E&D Realty and Investment, and about 3 other enterprises, including construction, and she's also a home ownership counselor. So please welcome President of NAREB, Lydia Pope.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. I bring you greetings on behalf of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. My name is Lydia Pope. I currently serve as our national president for such a great organization. NAACP is who we call ourselves. Realtors have been around since 1947, and our whole mission is democracy in housing, serving the unserved, working within our communities. And I'd like to first acknowledge all of our Realtors members that are in the room. If you can just please raise your hand, stand, be acknowledged. Our Atlanta chapter, my first vice president, Courtney Johnson-Rose, third vice, Danny Felton, my ED, and President Jeffrey Hicks. I want to just say thank you for always supporting. To all of our congressional women, men, all of our dignitaries, Madam President Ginnie, Alanna Mccargo, David, thank you so much for just having this idea come to creation. I am from the city of Cleveland, Ohio, and it was there first, so I would say that we truly appreciate what you've brought to this organization and what you brought to the relationship. NAACP, we're the oldest and largest African-American real estate trade in this country. We have over 94 chapters and 12 affiliates. And our whole mission, as I stated, is democracy in housing. We stand with our colleagues as the Black Collaborative celebrates its one-year anniversary. We're so proud of all the accomplishments. You know, all of us could have had our own events, but we chose to work together as one, as a collaborative, so that we can make change in America and Black home ownership. You know, one thing I find out, and I'll be brief, is that we know that Black Americans and Black families have 1 penny of wealth for every dollar of their white counterparts. That's a cold reality in the communities that we serve all around the country. And one of the chief reasons is the widespread biases throughout the real estate industry. You know, owning a home, as we all know, is the key to Black wealth. And studies show that 60 to 70% of the average Black household's net worth comes from equity. But that's a compounding problem. And it's a damage to wealth which is perpetuated by the biased appraisals, the loan level pricings, the credit criteria, the student loan debt, the housing supply, and the access to down payment, and there's many more. You know, the reality is that when Blacks overcome the barriers and secure a mortgage loan to purchase a home, we still face the challenges in building equity. That's why NAACP has taken the position, along with the collaborative, to fight this battle, to make a change. And that's who we are, knowing that over 100 years later, we're still in that 30% gap. Just look at the numbers. It says for itself. And lastly, for decades, Black Americans and families of color have been victims of housing discriminations that have prevented us from reaping and reaping the generational benefits of home ownerships. As a result, we've been unable to pass down that legacy wealth, that generation. You know, I was happy to see that big boy, he bought a property, he's looking at generational wealth, and we all in the room should be doing the same. That's why legislation is so crucial. It helps right the ship and put Black families on the path towards home ownership and building Black wealth. And in closing, what I like to say about the collaborative is that partnering with the collaborative, it brings together not just what we do, but it focuses on one mission, and that mission is change, and it starts with us. So on behalf of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, I'd like to thank David Dworkin, the collaborative, and all the efforts, even those that are in the room today, to listen, because you find that it's very important about Black homeownership and the wealth that we are in America. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of this event.
And it's now my pleasure to introduce an old friend and real, genuine national leader in the issue of home ownership and wealth growth. And we met each other, I think it was 20 years ago we worked together. And Kristy Fercho is now the chair of the Mortgage Bankers Association, which is really quite an accomplishment in and of itself. And she's also the head of mortgage lending at Wells Fargo with 25,000 people working for her. I hope they're all off today, and because I'm getting a lot for this, so it's like I don't want you to hear it from 25,000 people, but she's really been an incredible leader, and she gets it, and she is second to none, both in passion and excellence, and so I am deeply grateful for you to be here. I'd like to invite you up to say a few words, and Wells Fargo has been incredibly generous, both the National Housing Conference and this initiative, and it is an understatement to say we could not have done this without you.
Well, hello, everyone. It is a privilege to be with you today, and I think all the comments have been said about being here on such an important holiday and how critical it is for all of us to be here. I'll just tell a quick story, because I am here in my role as chair of the Mortgage Bankers Association. I am the first Black chair in the 108-year history of the organization. Thank you. And it truly is one of those where, when Kamala Harris said, if you can see one, you can be one, and I may be the first, I won't be the last, that has been my mission and focus at the Mortgage Bankers Association. And in this year as chair, I have made increasing the minority home ownership a key priority. It's my #1 platform, and very closely to it is my second platform, is being able to diversify the industry and really getting more Black and brown people in our community. Unfortunately, the Mortgage Bankers Association, the fact that I am the first one in 108 years speaks to the issue. I am many times the only one in the room, and it is such a sad state. And if we are going to make progress on this Black homeownership gap, we must have people that look like us in those communities. And that's why it's so critical for NAREB and the realtors that are here. You know the people, you are in those communities, and we can speak to our people and build trust in a way that others just simply cannot. And so I've been really focused at the Mortgage Bankers Association. As a part of that pledge, as a part of my responsibilities, I have initiated the Home for All pledge. And it is a commitment by member companies to be able to commit to expanding and advancing racial homeownership and the equity in racial homeownership. That's critically important. We've talked today, and you've heard a number of the speakers talk about how absolutely critical it is that, one, we all come together and work together, but how critically important this generational wealth is, and how important the home is for building wealth, for stabilizing communities, and for really driving economics in our country. And so the Home for All pledge really had us focus on having member companies commit. And I said, I don't want your money, I want your commitment, because what we need is action to be able to make a difference. And the commitment is around 4 key pillars. The first is around committing to policies that are going to really address and advance racial equity. The second is to support things like convergence, and you'll hear a little bit more about convergence on the panel, but convergence really is going into those communities where we can really address the entire ecosystem, the homeownership ecosystem, from lenders to nonprofits to realtors to housing developers, and really address all the issues that actually you see in the pinwheel, this ecosystem, how we come together to really drive that. The third is really being able to diversify and commit to diversity, equity, and inclusion in those communities. And then the fourth is really just committing to advancing both racial homeownership and rental housing and doing initiatives that are going to advance that forward. We've had 300 member companies sign the pledge to this day, and I'm grateful. Yes, thank you. And it's really been extraordinary seeing these, many of them are, white leaders, come up to me and say, I now get it. I appreciate how critical this is, not only for the communities of color, but for the stabilization of our economy and our nation. And so that's what it's about, is getting real action to really be able to drive that forward. So it is an absolute privilege to be with you all today. I look forward to continuing to work with you, to partner shoulder to shoulder about how we advance this critical work, because this isn't only for our communities, this really is for the stabilization of our nation. And it's important work for us to be able to do, and couldn't be more pleased to be able to do it with you today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. And our last speaker before we break, and then we're going to have an incredible program. I hope you will please stay for that, because it's just packed with amazing information. And learning and studying and understanding this data is going to be how we move this forward. But I want to introduce Dr. Kristy, and I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm going to invite you to correct me, Katie. She is Vice President for the Southern Region at NeighborWorks America, and she directs the deployment of NeighborWorks financial and technical service throughout 13 states and the District of Columbia. And I just want to say that NeighborWorks is a critical partner, and if you're working for a high-performing nonprofit in Atlanta, chances are they're also a NeighborWorks member.
Good afternoon, everyone. As he stated, I'm Kristy Cade, and I'm with NeighborWorks America. But I am so delighted to be here. I'm just going to start with a quick story. Last night I had my house full of family members over for Father's Day, and they said, well, what are you doing tomorrow? It's Juneteenth. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll be at a meeting. A meeting? You're supposed to be off. And then I told them that I was gathering with you around homeownership. Well, in the room were my nieces, my nephews, and a couple other family members. So because of you, last night, I was able to talk about homeownership with my nieces and nephews and tell them about you, and tell them about your mortgages, and tell them about Fannie and Freddie, and tell them about how I purchased a home, about the programs that are offered through our NeighborWorks network to help them be financially capable, financially mobile, and successful homeowners, not just buying a home, but staying in the home. I was so delighted because my niece told me, I've been working on my credit score, and I'm at this credit score, and I just got pre-qualified for a mortgage, and so everyone leaned in. But also in the room was my 7 grandchildren who were also leaning in, and they were interested in hearing the story. One wants to be an architect, and one wants to be a builder. So we were doing the legacy conversation last night because of you, because of the plan that we have for 3 million homeowners. So today I want to say, first, welcome. I want to thank you, David, and all of the partners in this collaborative, because part of those 3 million may be your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, your brothers and sisters, the uncle that hasn't done anything lately, so he may be buying a home because of this initiative. I also want to say thank you. I was sharing with Janice Brinkley and Mia Farley and some others that this isn't our first rodeo. If you've been in this area, NeighborWorks America has too. Over 40 years ago, Dorothy Richardson stood in Pittsburgh and said, not in my neighborhood. We want to be owners, and that's how NeighborWorks began. Under the leadership of Marietta Rodriguez, we are helping nonprofit organizations that are members of NeighborWorks in over 50 states, DC and Puerto Rico, help individuals not just stay in their home as a renter, but be prepared to buy a home, to secure mortgages through CDFIs, through partner banks and mortgage companies, to partner with many of who you heard today, to create not just the first, but the beginning of opportunities in home ownership, to help builders across the country build affordable, quality affordable homes. So we are delighted to be a part of this collaborative. We want to thank you. Again, it's not your first rodeo. We just need to know how to ride this horse, right? And so thank you for staying committed. Thank you for getting your certifications. Thank you for leading the way. Thank you for being a part of not only the 3 million that are to come, but the many that have followed that still need to see us moving forward and making things happen. I'm delighted to see this happen in Atlanta. I'm delighted to see us leading the way across the nation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back at 2 o'clock for our program. And in the meantime, please help yourself. If you're hungry, grab some food or something to drink, and we'll meet back here. And here's 2 really great panels and an amazing speaker.